Now, this is an issue that on the one hand I couldn't care less about, but on the other hand I find really fascinating and a really excellent point of reference, not just for the games industry, but for behaviour of companies. And it is, of course, the gigantic tantrum being thrown by PUBG Corp and Bluehole over the fact that a company dared to make a game that was similar in genre to them, and then do it better than them, to the point that PUBG is now dying a slow, humiliating death. So the gameplay I'm using today is courtesy of Jack Frag, so I want to say thanks to Jack for letting me use that. Now the comedy, of course, is that PUBG rose to become a global sensation from the BR mod for Arma 3. Now I actually got to speak with Brendan Green, the creator of that mod, aka Player Unknown, as PUBG was releasing and looking more than a little popular with streamers. Now when things were all rosy at the time, I asked him about modding and in general the future of the genre, and he told me that he was more than happy to see other games carry the flame of success forward as he had done from the BR mod into PUBG. But of course this was a casual conversation and he wasn't specifically clear about what that meant in terms of how that stuff was, I guess, replicated or imitated. Now you can read around that and look into the current situation of PUBG Corp suing Epic Games and read it as them legitimately believing another dev has copied their own creation too closely. Or you can read it as a developer and publisher who have, instead of putting time and effort into bringing a game up to the standard expected for a title at its level of popularity, decided the best way forward is to try and crush and damage their competitors. It's pretty sad, especially when you consider that PUBG Corp and Bluehole were making massive profits in the many hundreds of millions of dollars, and they certainly have got some spare change to plow into fixing the issues people have had with PUBG. But what is this whole issue really about? Because it's not that Fortnite have directly ripped game assets or copied anything that's beyond the core game mode, and this is the interesting and the curious part of this entire fiasco. Now I said quite some time back that with PUBG, Brendan Green had really created not a game, but a game mode, a genre even. And whilst games have always had a free-for-all, last man standing kind of mode and variations along that theme, we hadn't really seen anything like a Battle Royale game that had stood up at this level before. And I think it's worth remembering that DayZ plays a large part into the kind of survivalist, last man standing, play against other people in a wilderness element to that. I think that's part of where that comes from. It's also worth remembering that Battle Royale was originally, a novel and a film, and that there's a huge element there which has been copied and brought into that. But I think Bluehole and PUBG have also somehow mistakenly assumed that they were going to be able to monopolize this genre and game mode, which clearly is really arrogant and naive beyond belief. When they first released, they were up there, they were the only ones on the platform, and I think they thought that that was just going to be the case. I think they thought that, hey, we are the Battle Royale game, and that's it. Now Fortnite is a game which has taken those core genre elements of Battle Royale, fight until one player remains, encroaching in a playable space, common survival UI. But beyond that, all of its features like the aesthetic, the mechanics, additional features like building, bear zero resemblance to PUBG. And sorry, but you cannot copyright a frying pan either. What anyone can see Fortnite does better than PUBG is free to play, performs a lot better, a lot more stable, and most importantly, the developer are on top of their patches, updates. They're incredibly strong when it comes to ensuring the game runs as well as it possibly can, and that is a massive attracting factor for players in games these days. It still astonishes me how so many developers do not understand that. Performance and stability should be the foundation of any multiplayer game today, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything. Making legal proceedings against another game, which is ultimately just making a better product than you, is the business equivalent of just crying because another producer or streamer is doing better than you. It's just never going to end well, and it's going to ultimately reflect very poorly on you. The only thing to do, pull your socks up and do better yourself. If anything, this kind of competition should be motivating and make you think, hey, you know what? We need to get our shit together and get this sorted. Redouble our efforts, but instead you got PUBG starting to introduce things that Fortnite have implemented, like their limited time events and so on. Now, as I say, this whole embarrassing shambles is to one degree totally irrelevant to me, but on the other hand, who doesn't love seeing a giant company throwing their toys out the pram because the easy ride that they thought they had turned out to be a little bit bumpier along the road? PUBG pretty much never has anything like even half of Fortnite's views on Twitch for many months now, and continues to decline. Making these pointless and embarrassing legal cases even an untrained eye can see are ridiculous is not going to help their image or their credibility. If they want to salvage what's left of their self-respect and their image, they need to start plowing these vast profits into actually sorting their game and making it more appealing. They might consider even dropping its price, or even thinking about moving to a free-to-play model. If they dig their heels in and stubbornly stick to their guns in the vain hope that they're going to be able to somehow again become a sole monopoly, or at least the dominant game in Battle Royale, that is a path which is going to be doomed to failure, and also future conversations of people saying, wow, do you remember when PUBG really started to fall apart? As always, tell me your thoughts about this whole issue down below.